for Hiking for Hope. On the line, we have Trina.
Hi.
And that is Trina of Master T Fitness. Trina and I are with Miss Yvette Davis, and Miss Yvette Davis is the founder of International Veterans Empowerment Thrift Store. So, Yvette, just give a little shout out, let them know you're here.
Hello, everyone. I'm here. It's hot in North Carolina.
That's what's up. Let me introduce you to Hiking for Hope. Hiking for Hope is an event that I started years ago, but I didn't quite have the name Hiking for Hope at that time. It was an opportunity for moms, single moms, working moms to just get out and do something a little different, do something out in nature because nature has such healing properties. And we just started going on these hikes. They first started out as short hikes, but then we started loving them so much that they just became more frequent and a little more longer. And then last year, I wanted to make Hiking for Hope a thing. Once a year, coming together to celebrate self, health, and community. And last year was a success. And with your help, we can make this year a success as well. So, along with Hiking for Hope, our mission of self, health, and community, we choose one organization every year to donate a portion of the proceeds to. This year, we wanted to find a way that we can give back to the veteran community. And last week, I was at a veterans rally and I met a woman named Yvette Davis. And Yvette's story was so powerful that at that moment, I knew that that was the cause that we had to support for this Hiking for Hope.
I started my organization to as a legacy to my late son. What we do here is we help veterans in active duty that's dealing with PTSD, TBI, which is traumatic brain injury. And we also have several different programs in the thrift store. We started as a thrift store, but I guess the customer determines what we end up being. So we became Vet Stories. And saying that, what it means is that we get so many stories here of veterans in active duty who are struggling with mental health issues like suicide. I get calls all the way from Niagara Falls, Columbia, South Carolina. So this is where we are mentoring, supporting, and giving advice to these veterans. I'm in partnership with the Vet Center. So when I am not a licensed psychiatrist or therapist in any way, but for some reason, everyone comes to me. So that's where the Vet Center steps in, because I call the Vet Center, they has the mental health staff, and they help the veteran or active duty who is in crisis at that moment. The reason I chose the Vet Center is because the 1-8 suicide hotline is flawed. The problem with that is that when you call 1-800-VETERAN suicide, this is my experience. I don't know if it's across the board. Person that answered the phone was not properly trained. And because of that, I lost my son. And we're trying to make sure that that never happens again. I spent 6 hours on the phone pleading for someone to help me. If you call your bank today, right now, they tell you press 1 for checking, 2 for saving, 3 for more, and the list goes on and on.
Right.
Yet we do not have that same system set up for the suicide awareness, and that's a problem. I was transferred for 6 hours straight, and in 6 hours, my son ended up killing himself in front of me. So we're trying to have all that change.
Tell us about your son. Introduce us to him.
Dimitri, I had 2 sons, and Dimitri is the oldest of the 2. He was the sweetest, most gentle. He was big. He was huge. We call him the gentle giant. He stood 6'1" and weighed 240 pounds. But he was so kind and so sweet. When his brother would start a trouble with him, I would say to him, I said, why don't you just box him one good time and maybe he'll go away. And he would be like, no, Mom, that's my brother. I can't do that. I said, but look at what he does. He said, that's all right. He'll be okay. After graduation, he graduated Jacksonville High School on June 13. on June 30th, he was in boot camp. So he didn't get a chance to do anything, you know. Somewhere in his career, he transferred from a wheel mechanic into Delta Force, which is a special force in the military. And I guess in Afghanistan, I don't know what quite happened in Afghanistan, and it's in the month of August, and it's on Friday. He became suicidal while on duty, active duty. And he went to his superior and he complained about that. They put him on medication. He went back and he told them the medicine was making him have suicidal thoughts. They tried different things with him, Ambien and different things, but it just didn't work. They eventually gave him an honorable discharge out the military, but upon doing that, no one contacted me to tell me that he was coming home, but he was dealing with some mental health crisis. So as his mother, I had no knowledge to what he was dealing with. I started caring for him at first. It was funny because I told him to do something and he seemed confused. And I'm thinking, this doesn't seem right. But I laughed it off. He's young. He's 20-something years old. You know, mom's okay. I laughed it off. From the front door, I'll say, let's say where your front door is to maybe the hallway. He would get that distance and couldn't remember.
And this wasn't the case prior to him going to Afghanistan?
Nope, he was my defiant little son. Tell him to come home at 12 midnight. He knows if he gets here at 12:05, he'll get in trouble. So he figured, hey, I'm late. So he was the kind of kid. He was on the football team at high school. He was the kind of kid that was involved in everything.
Right.
And he was a happy-go-lucky. But the kid that came back was not the kid that I put in the military.
Tell us about that events leading up to that particular day. What were some of the warning signs, the events?
Well, I can tell you that it wasn't that day alone. It was months leading into that day. After a while, he became suicidal. He took a gun and he fired it to his head. It misfired. So I hospitalized him. They sent him to Holly Hill in Raleigh. He stayed there for about a week or two, then they released him back in my custody. However, because he was an adult, they used the HIPAA law to not give me the proper care I needed. From my understanding and what I've learned dealing with my veteran son, ideology is if I'm thinking of something, if I'm thinking about it, and I just say to you, Miss Gay, hey, you know what? I'm thinking of committing suicide, but maybe you wouldn't think much of it maybe the first time I said it. But if I continue to say it to you after a while, a red flag would goes off, right? I kept putting him in the hospital and I kept putting him in the hospital. He's suicidal. He used a gun. The gun misfired. He set the house on fire and sat in it. Okay, and I'm reaching out for help. It was like, well, go get a power of attorney. I went and got, his father is a lawyer. I went and got the power of attorney from his dad. Then I turned around and I went and got one from the military. If you pull his name in the federal system, my name automatically comes up. So when I would call and say, this is my problem, you know, my son is suicidal, he's a veteran, I need help, X, Y, and Z. They would say, well, if the veteran doesn't say so, there is absolutely nothing we can do. The veteran has to say so, even though the veteran is in a mental health crisis and his mental health was failing. So these are the struggles that we have here aboard Camp Lejeune. We don't have the simple care here. We have so many veterans walk out of the VA on any average day and kill themselves right in the VA parking lot. While his body is still at my foot and I'm in tears, bawling my eyes out, they're calling me to tell me it's time sensitive. Can they get his organs? I would have donated his organs if given the right situation, but I'm grieving and you are in that mode. That's disrespect at all levels, you know. It's just so. What I've done for 2 years, I sat at my son's grave from the time the graveyard opened to the time they closed it, just in tears, trying to figure, just figuring out how did this happen. And I was so depressed, I couldn't do anything. After 2 years, I got angry. I was bitter and I was angry. And at that point, I decided to fight back. turned into anger. I was like a raging bull coming, so get out of my way.
And you turned that into something powerful. How did that translate into the thrift store? I remember you saying how the donations just started pouring in, but right before you purchased that property, how did that come into fruition?
Believe it or not, I'm sitting in my room in tears. Can't see past my eyelashes. I was angry with God. So I asked him, I said, why did you take my son? Why did you have to take my son? And the answer I got, and I can hear him just as clearly. I'm not crazy. I heard him just as clearly. I took one, but I gave you many. And I turned around with an answer. What is that supposed to mean? That is no answer. The funny thing is, after that, you know, I'm still sitting on my bed, and he said, I want you to go out in the community, and I have something for you to do. And I'm like, go out in the community looking the way I look right now? I'm not going anyway. I looked at every building, and it kept bringing me back to the same spot. Then when I went in the building, the colors was even chosen. You would get a light pastel color, something that's calming, something that's relaxing. As people walk in, they can feel the warmth and the love. Sure enough, I put a pastel color in here, and every time someone comes in, they said this place just feels so spiritual. It's just something about this place that just makes me wants to come back.
On an average day, how many veterans are coming through your doors, not just again to purchase, but to get that help that they're not finding anywhere else?
Sometimes it's all day. Give and take, it varies. Sometimes they just come in and they walk around and they'll see me. They say, I saw you on TV. I was like, yeah, you did. It was like, you have a few minutes. I would like to talk to you. And I'm like, sure. And I said, come over here and sit with me, or let's walk outside and talk. Depends on what it is. I said, let's walk outside and talk. And the stories that I hear from females being raped in the military, and if they say anything, the guy gets to stays in, but they're pushed out of the military, and it's just very difficult. Yes, I get, you know, I've even spoken to people from World War II, Vietnam veterans. I get people of all age and all generation to come in here and speak.
I am just so proud that we're doing this, Alethea, because the veterans always get nothing. They serve their country and they get nothing.
Your husband's a veteran.
My husband is a veteran, yes. And you know, he has issues because of it too. They don't take care of him like they need to.
Right.
At all. He's suffering. So, and he's been out for over 25 years and he's still suffering. So, I mean, this is just listening to your story, Miss Yvette, it got me so emotional, and I'm starting to get pissed off myself. We got to do more. We need to do more. And I'm just like, so I don't really have any questions. I'm just like, let's get it done.
If we come together as one, and really push through and stand our ground, you know how they did a Million Man March? I think we need to do something like a Million Veterans March, so they can hear us and not just see us as statistics or number, because we're not statistics. We're not a number. We need to change it, and we need to have a voice.
So, and I'm glad you mentioned that, the next steps. I'm so happy you mentioned that, because I want to know, what are your next steps in terms of growth, in terms of getting the message out there? What are your next steps?
I'm not going to lie to you. My next step is that I'm pushing it. I'm pushing as hard as I can to get my case to Congress. That is my next step. I know a lot of veterans commit suicide. I know my case is not unique, but my case is unique to some degree, because Dimitri left a living witness, a living voice behind. Most veterans, when they commit suicide, they are alone. Dimitri was not alone. I went to all of his appointments. So what I have to say is not hearsay. It's what I actually heard the doctors them said. I was with my son when he came into this world. I was with my son when he exited this world. And no mother should have to sit down or father should have to witness what I witnessed, because I ended up having to have a closed casket. And this should never, ever happen to another veteran's family.
I agree.
You know, it's like they're talking, well, we need to change the number from 10 numbers to, well, if you don't have an experienced, knowledgeable person on the phone, what you're gonna have repeatedly are Dimitris. They should have had someone keep me on the phone and have someone heading in the direction I was at. Secure him, made sure he was safe, and then we can worry about all the HIPAA and red tape law. But he served his country, you made a promise to him, and you failed him. What is my next step? My next step is to push my case through Congress.
Given what you just said, how can people, one, find you? Because I am going to put your information up and the links to the videos where you tell your story. But how can people not only find you, but support you?
Okay, so it's YS Davis at i-vet.com. You can reach me here. And you can also find me on Facebook Marketplace.
Now, on Facebook Marketplace, would it be under International Veterans Empowerment Thrift Store or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
On the International Veterans Empowerment Thrift Store. We have a fundraiser out there going. We have one on GoFundMe and at the Cash App, and it's GoFundMe page, and it's International Veterans Empowerment Thrift Store. So it's called Fighting For. It's 44. So it's Fighting For Forgotten Families, and that's what we do here, is to make sure that those families are not forgotten because the veteran wasn't taking care of himself. Everybody knows there are 22 veterans a day committing suicide. Well, that's a number that they put. Is probably more than that. Wow. However, I also have a log that I've kept showing just as many active duty a day commit suicide, but no one is talking about that. I have a file on it because they come to me. Or I get a call from the sheriff department, or I get a call from the mothers.
You are what's needed. Your store is for the veterans, but I remember you also saying that all types of people come in because suicide, it's universal.
Yes.
And it could be a child just needing that mom figure, someone needing just someone to talk to confide in. So you're touching so many people, even outside the veterans. You are so what's needed in this world right now. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being so courageous and so brave in the midst of everything you went through to come back and say, I'm going to help. I'm going to help because I care, because I see my son and my son's story in every person I touch. And I just want to tell you, you're my shero. Just thank you so much for what you do. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
My son is gone and I cannot change my outcome, but just maybe perhaps I could change someone else's outcome.
You are putting it out there for people to hear the story and what needs to be done. I think sometimes people just don't know where or how, where to go. But if you give them a direction, you give them a dress, you give them a date, then they know where to show up. Trina, I'm going to defer back to you again. Is there anything that you want to say before we go?
I'm just excited to raise money for this cause. I'm excited.
And ladies, before y'all leave, I need to get my story out nationally. So whatever y'all can do, I would greatly appreciate it. I've done some local stories, but I want to get it out on the national stage. So whatever it is, or however y'all can help me, that would be so grateful to me and my organization.
Okay.
Done.
But thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe we can meet in the future sometime.
We will. We will, because I'm going to visit the store.
Well, come on down. We love visitors.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it. Thank you, Trina, for making time for this. I know you have family in town and just stuff going on. So thank you so much, you both, for just helping this come into fruition. Thank you. All right, you guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Talk to you later.
Yes.